We are back for week 2 of A Course in Miracles. This week was actually really profound. I have to admit that I am 2 days behind, but I think it's because I needed a day or two to process what was coming through. So I'm only on lesson 8. I am behind. This week, I'm only going to be focusing on the lessons that had the most impact on me, because if I try to go through every single lesson I just did, it's going to be a lot. So I'm going to be talking about lesson 6, lesson 7, and lesson 8. I really had to throw out my understanding of reality a little bit in order to step into the understanding of what the lessons were offering. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think that they've had a truly profound effect on me. Something I don't think I mentioned in the first video is that the workbook is split into 2 sections. The first is the undoing of the way that you see things now. And the second is to reintegrate a new perspective. Lesson number 6 was I'm upset because I see something that is not there. And they gave you some examples of how to execute the meditation. So you would say, I am angry at blank because I see something that is not there. I am worried about blank because I see something that is not there. Baby, this lesson really, it did it. It scratched the first itch. For me, my takeaway from lesson 6 after doing it all day, and it said to only do it 3 or 4 times, which I did. But what I wrote down is that possibility, expectation, and belief is at the root of upset. The belief that something's missing, that something should be there that's not there. That's literally the cause of every reason why we're ever upset about anything. At least that's the conclusion that I've come to. They end the lesson with another mantra for you to meditate on, which is there are no small upsets. They are all equally disturbing to my peace of mind. Lesson 7 was I only see the past. And they start that lesson by saying this idea is particularly difficult to believe at first. I agree, because immediately I was like, I only see the past, especially if any of my friends, they know I'm very future minded. Everything I do, I'm thinking about future tense. Immediately, my nervous system was like, what do you mean I only see the past? It goes on to say that the past is the rationale that we use for the present, and it's the reason why we're not seeing things clearly. They give the example of a cup that say you get a new mug. And they go on to say that your understanding of that cup is completely based on anything you've ever seen in the past. It's not based on your understanding of something that you haven't seen. Your understanding of that cup is fully and completely and totally based on all of your experiences of other cups and mugs in the past. And so what they encourage you to do in this lesson is to walk around throughout your day and look at items and repeat the mantras. I only see the past in this blank. So they give you some examples. I only see the past in this pencil. I only see the past in this shoe. I only see the past in that body, in that face. They go on to say that old ideas about time are very difficult to change, because everything you believe is rooted in time and depends on your not learning these new ideas about it. Yet that is precisely why you need new ideas about time. And if you remember last week, we said the purpose of time is to learn how to use time constructively. And so what I wrote down for me in my meditations of understanding this verse was, if I can only see the past, what does that change about how I choose to think and take action in the present? How do I learn to create a structure for my mind that is rooted in what is presently happening to the best of my ability, and with the awareness that anything is subject to change, because the past does not have to determine the present or the future? Lesson 8 ate me up. Think about the way you've been taught to think. Most of us haven't even been taught to think. And that was the exercise they gave in the workbook. They told you to go through every thought in your mind without discrimination and say, I seem to be thinking about blank. I seem to be thinking about blank. And once you go through every thought and there's nothing else left in your mind that you haven't acknowledged that you're thinking about, they tell you to end it by saying the mantra, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. We've been wired to not be present. Psychologically, we're pulled between time. So much of how they just teach us how to think on this planet is either worrying about the future, which is definitely an illusion, or ruminating on the past, which is a distortion, because the past is already over and the past is not present. And if you're anything like me, you're hearing this and then you're saying to yourself, if I'm not supposed to be thinking about the past and I'm not supposed to be thinking about the future, what am I supposed to be thinking about? I think the answer to that is we're supposed to be thinking about how we want to use our time in the present. Still, because of the social structures that are set up, because of capitalism, we are not allowed, very few are allowed the luxury of being present with what you want to do with your time. All this conversation about time and how we use time and how time impacts our decision making made me think about Interstellar. Anyone who knows me knows I love Interstellar. I am a follower of the Church of Chris Nolan, okay? For me, I think the movie Interstellar is a perfect example of overlooking the purpose of time. And so if you've seen the movie Interstellar, continue. But if you haven't, I'm about to spoil it. So you might want to press pause. In the movie, they travel through a wormhole and they end up at one of many planets that they're trying to discover if they're habitable or not. They land at this planet that they label Miller's Planet because a scientist named Miller goes there before them. And the planet's completely covered in water. And so before they go down there, they're measuring the time relativity because time is everything, right? They're trying to save the people back on Earth and they can't waste any time. Now, this idea of wasting time or time being wasted is also in A Course in Miracles. There's a verse that I pulled that I thought was relevant that says, the basic decision of the miracle-minded is not to wait on time any longer than is necessary. Time can waste as well as be wasted. Let's go back to the planet that they're on Interstellar. Time was actively wasting by them just being present there, right? Because every hour is 7 Earth years. So the minute they're landing, they are using the past to help them understand how to save time with the little bit of time they do have. No one's actually paying attention to what's happening in the present. The fact that they're on a planet covered in water and what they think are mountains in the distance are actually waves. And so because of this, somebody dies. And not only that, they end up losing the equivalent of 23 years back on Earth because things go very wrong. When I connect that scene to lesson 8, which as a reminder said, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts, I had to do a little bit of grief work about how many times I let my fears about the future or my understanding of the past hinder what was happening in the present. And I think one of my goals now, walking away from this past week of doing the course, is how much more can I reclaim my power of my lived experience as a human being by being present with time, being present with how I want to use my time? How much more powerful will I become if I just lock into the present? I invite you to do that as well. Spend some time this week and think about in your day-to-day lived experience, how much more presence can you offer to yourself? How much more can you examine your thoughts and recognize that sometimes you're really not thinking about anything at all? And the things that you are thinking about are really just pulling you from being present with the incredible things that are unfolding for you or available for you in any given day. So that's it for this week. And I'll see you guys next week.